to another episode of the WMMA Scene Report. This is episode 44, weekly show where we go over the latest and greatest in women's mixed martial arts results, news, previews, rankings updates, you name it, we've talked about it on this show. This is a second edition where we'll be recording it instead of doing it live. Probably going to go with the recording until further notice. It just seems a lot easier, and usually the show gets a lot more views after the live show anyway. So we're going to be sticking with recording until further notice. But anyway, first up, let's go to this past weekend's fight results. Had a bunch of fights this weekend, starting at Eternal MMA 49. Chelsea Hackett defeated Nicole Zepisveri via KO TKO at 8 seconds of round number 2. Hackett climbed to 2-0. Zepisveri fell to 2-2. This is a pretty good fight in the first round, but the real story of it was in the second round when Zepisveri threw a kick to the body of Hackett. Hackett caught it and then swept the leg of Zepisveri, and Zepisveri went to go for a flying arm triangle off of that sweep, over-rotated, and boom, hit her head off the mat, and she was done from there, 8 seconds into the first round. After also Friday, we had Combate Americas number 48. They were in Garland, Texas. Let's see, how many fights did they have there? I thought they had a ladies fight. At 139-pound catch weight, looks like Abril Anguiano defeated Paula Ramirez via split decision. Anguiano climbed to 3-0. Ramirez fell to 1-3. Then, of course, we had big Invicta FC 38 card, 7 fights, 1 title fight. Was meant to be 2, but one of the fighters missed weights, unfortunately. So we were stuck with just the 1 title fight. Still a great night of fights. No fight ended inside the distance, unfortunately, but let me tell you something. There is beatdowns galore. I mean, I don't know how many fighters went to the hospital after this. It was more than 1, though, that's for sure. All right, first up at 135 pounds, Tanisha Tennant defeated Serena De Jesus via unanimous decision. I thought Tennant just did enough work to really outstrike De Jesus here. Tennant climbed to 2-0. De Jesus fell to 1-1. After that, Autumn Norton defeated Cheyenne Rincon at 145 pounds via unanimous decision, of course. Norton climbed to 1-1. Rincon fell to 2-2. This was one of the beatdowns I was talking about. The intensity, the aggression of Norton was just too much for Rincon after almost 2 years away from the sport. Really nice victory there by Autumn Norton. Really looking forward to seeing what she has in store for us in the future. After that was at 135 pounds. Lisa Verzosa defeated Carrie Kennison via unanimous decision, of course. Verzosa climbed to 5-0. Kennison fell to 3-2. This was another good fight. I think both of these ended up in the hospital. Verzosa with stitches. Kennison had a broken hand. Just another really good back and forth fight. After that, down at flyweight, 125 pounds, Shanna Young defeated Mayu Suotama. Young climbed to 7-2. Suotama fell to 8-5. This was a rematch of their exhibition fight at Phoenix Series 2. Suotama, I thought, took the first round very handily, but Young made the proper adjustments between the first and second round, and then really took over in the second and third rounds after that. Once Suotama couldn't get Young down or complete a successful takedown on Young, Young really took over in the striking and in the ground and pound. After that was a strawweight fight. Mallory Martin defeated Cynthia Arcio. Martin climbed to 6-2. Arcio fell to 5-2. This was really 2 stories in one fight. The story of the stand-up, which was almost entirely Arcio until the third round. And then there was a story of the groundwork, which was all Martin. The moment Martin was able to get a takedown, she controlled the round from that point on pretty much. But on the feet, RCO did really well striking. Some really nice combos, some in and out, some hit and run, a lot of hit and run fighting, stick and move. Just really, it was night and day between the stand up between the two and then the groundwork between the two. Martin stand up looked a little better in the third round because she knew she could take RCO down pretty much whenever she wanted to, and RCO was more fearful to take down, allowing Martin to do better in the stand up. But it ended up being a bloody finish there. Not a finish, but a decision. Martin bloodied RCO in the third round with an elbow. Which brought us to the co-main event. Vanessa Porto defeated Karina Rodriguez via unanimous decision. Porto climbed to 22-8. Rodriguez fell to 8-4. I disagreed with this decision. I thought it was a close fight. I wouldn't call it a robbery. I'm really not into calling close fights robbery. But I saw it for Rodriguez, and I had picked Porto to win this. And I thought Rodriguez had won. Porto, I thought, had the better first round, but Rodriguez started to come on in the second round. And then the third round was pretty much all Karina Rodriguez. I thought she had done enough to take it. They might have to run this fight back. It was supposed to be for the title. Rodriguez came in 1.1 pounds overweight, unfortunately, so it became the non-title co-main event. But I thought this was so close enough. Had Rodriguez won, they definitely would have run it back. But I think I can definitely see them running this fight back again in the near future. Which brings us to our main event. Kanako Murata defeated Emily Ducote via split decision. Murata climbed to 11-1. Ducote fell to 8-6. Murata won the vacant Invicta strawweight title. Now this one was another very close fight. Could have gone either way. I thought Ducote did enough to win. I thought she was way more active off her back than Murata was from on top when they were on the ground. When they were standing, it was pretty much all Ducote. One judge, however, gave 4 rounds out of 5 to Murata. I think round 5 was the only fight where Murata didn't get a successful takedown, which basically signified that to this judge, if you got taken down, you lost that round. It was ridiculous scoring. I thought Ducote won. I'm not going to cry robbery necessarily. I mean, the one judge was 3-2 Murata. The other judge was 3-2 Ducote. But for one judge to score it 4 rounds to 1 for Murata, I thought was ridiculous. I mean, that was just terrible. Terrible judging. Ducote was winning most of the stand-up exchanges, and even when she got taken down, there was only like maybe in the first and second round was when Murata had her most effective ground and pound. But even then, whenever she was on her back, Ducote was active from her back. She was throwing up strikes. She was going for submissions. She had a very active guard. She wasn't just tying up guard, closing it up, and trying to win that way. I thought this was another close fight. I thought the judges got it wrong, especially the judge that had it 4-1 for Murata. But that's me. Congratulations to the new champ, Kanako Murata. Which brought us to Saturday, UFC 244, Masvidal versus Diaz. We had one ladies fight. Katlyn Chookagian defeated Jennifer Maia via unanimous decision. Chookagian climbed to 13-2. Maia fell to 17-6. I thought Maia won the first round here. I thought she had a decent job of getting inside the range of Chookagian and landing her strikes. And then after that, Chookagian adjusted, found her range, and just took over. And it just seemed like Maia had no real game plan here in how to beat Katlyn Chookagian after that first round. It's like, I don't know what she was doing in there. But Chookagian pretty much just did her little hut striking at range thing that she does. She's very effective at it. Possibly the next title contender is Katlyn Chookagian. And that was it for the fight results for this past weekend, which brings us to the news. First up, Pancrase 311 on 8th December in Tokyo is going to have a strawweight fight between Diana and Karen Date. Both are making their pro debuts. I don't know anything about Diana. Karen Date is 2-0 as an amateur, and she's a high school fighter, 16 years old. Up next, women's mixed martial arts history will be made November 15th as featherweight mainstay Cindy Dandua and her daughter, I believe it's Lola Papadopoulos, will compete at the same event at Excite Fight Conquest of the Cage. I did a video covering this. If you want to go check it out afterwards, I went into more detail about it. Dandua is fighting at featherweight. Her daughter, who is 12 years old, is taking on an 11-year-old opponent in like an amateur rules bout. I'm not sure what all the safety they're going to take. I'm going to guess they're wearing safety gear. But yeah, it is history. Mother and daughter on the same card. Not pro, not but. I mean, obviously the little girls aren't fighting pro, but I mean, that's history. Bellator has done father-son cards twice. Once in Israel with the Ghazales, Hayam, and Aviv. And then they did it with the McKees. Antonio and AJ fought recently at the same event. Courtney Casey is out of her fight against Verna Jandiroba at UFC Fight Night Washington, D.C. on 7th December. Replacing Casey will be Olivia Hanata Souza, who is 13-2. Don't know why Casey pulled out. Couldn't find any reason why. It just said undisclosed reasons. At CFFC 80, November 22nd at Joint Base Langley, Eustis, and this will be on Fight Pass. An atomweight bout between Invicta veteran Jillian DeCourcy, 2-2, taking on Kate Perez, who I guess is making her debut. I can't find anything about her. In other news, Bellator featherweight Carrie Hughes announced her retirement from MMA and Muay Thai via social media. She had a 3-5 record in mixed martial arts, and said that it was just the right time. She hadn't done as well as she had hoped, so she's going to move on with her life. In one championship news, Kobe Northcutt, sister of UFC veteran and one fighter Sage Northcutt and wife of Bellator fighter Raymond Daniels, has signed with One Championship and will make her debut in Singapore November 22nd against Putri Padmi. Both fighters are 0-1 as a pro. I did do a video covering this. Actually, I made two videos covering it. One covering the signing and the other covering the fight announcement. I don't understand what One Championship is doing here. I just don't. I mean, what is the point of signing? Look, listen, you have the One Warrior series where you have fighters that are fighting in order to get a $100,000 contract. And some of them, most of them, almost all of them have better records than Kobe Northcutt. I mean, there's been a couple pro debuts on the One Warrior series, but most of them have had at least several years experience. And now you're just signing an 0-1 fighter to straight up come and fight for you and take on another 0-1 fighter. I just don't see the point. Unless they're using her as a marketing gimmick to have another brother-sister duo for One Championship, just like the Lees. And this one's even more pointless because these two are American. Well, One Championship is, I guess, expanding into the U.S. market. They plan on coming here in next year. I guess that's what they're doing. They're going for, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed brother-sister duo. Whatever. I'm not. It's marketability over merit is what it is. And in this case, it's just blatantly obvious and not good at all. A couple of injury updates. Both of these are stemming from Invicta Fighting Championships. Carrie Kennison suffered a broken hand in her decision loss to Lisa Verzosa at Invicta 38. I mentioned that earlier. And then from Invicta 37, I believe it was 37, Shino Van Hoos revealed via social media that she suffered a torn meniscus and grade 2 strain in her ACL in her fight against Lindsey Van Zant. That is at Invicta 37. She said there's no surgery required, but a lot of she's going to have to wear a brace for a while and a lot of rehabilitation. A couple fight announcements from Road FC. For Road FC 57 Double X, their all ladies event, December 14th. A minus 50 kilogram catchweight bout between Soo-Yeon Lee, who is 1-0, versus Min Shi, 6-3. And then a minus 60 kilogram catchweight bout between Rowan Pilger, 3-0, versus Yukari Nabe, 7-3-1. So the Lee versus Shi matchup is actually a decent matchup. Soo-Yeon Lee is coming off a win, her successful pro debut a year ago over the much more experienced Yeji Lee. So I think she'll do all right against Min Shi, who doesn't have a win over anybody with a winning record, even though she's 6-3. And then the Pilger versus Nabe matchup. Pilger is 3-0. She's showed a very good ground game so far. And Yukari Nabe is coming off a gimme fight in Deep Jewels just a couple weeks ago. So she'll actually be getting not only a warm body, but a live body in Rowan Pilger. So it's a good test for Pilger and a step back up in competition for Yukari Nabe. And then finally, some bad news coming out of the UFC. Due to a USADA violation, Priscilla Cachoeira is out of her fight at UFC Fight Night Sao Paulo on November 16th. Replacing her against Ariana Lipski will be Veronica Macedo, who was originally scheduled to fight Vanessa Milo at UFC Busan in December. So Cachoeira apparently fell due to a diuretic. She has a story over on, I believe it's MMA Fighting. You can go check it out there about her reasoning, what it was that she took and why she took it. Didn't realize that that it was a diuretic at the time, apparently. Macedo is now taking on Lipski in Brazil. Macedo, of course, is from Venezuela originally, although I don't think she's been back there in several years. Which now leaves Vanessa Milo without an opponent currently for the card in South Korea. So it'll be interesting to see who they replace her with, if they replace her. That's really... oh, you know what? I believe the fight with Milo was supposed to be at flyweight, and now Mazo has no opponent. So they might just make Milo versus Mazo. That'd be might as well. And then you can fit in one more fight after that. Instead of looking for two opponents, you just replacement opponents. You just take the two and put them in one, and then book one more fight if you have to. That's actually a good idea. So that brings us to the end of the news, which brings us to our weekly UFC rankings update. Only one change in the rankings over this past weekend. It doesn't make any sense at all. Lauren Murphy moved up one spot to number 8, replacing Roxanne Modafferi, who moved down one spot to number 9. Even though neither of them fought this weekend. So, there you go. And then we'll come to our final segment for the week, upcoming fights for this weekend. So, first up, at One Championship, Masters of Fate, Friday, Manila, Philippines, we have Stamp Fairtex taking on B. Nguyen. Fairtex coming in 2-0, Nguyen 5-4. Fairtex has a 3-inch height advantage, 5'2" to 4'11" for Nguyen. I did make a preview video for this. I am taking Fairtex on this one. I think she's going to be too strong, too aggressive for the more experienced in MMA Nguyen. And of course, Fairtex has a lot of experience in Muay Thai. Moving along, Friday night, Combate Americas. Pro debut of Melissa Thunder Rosa Cervantes, pro wrestler that Combate signed. She is taking on Nadine Mandial out of Belgium, who is 0-1 as a pro. This fight's happening at strawweight, and looking at the stats available, Mandiao is listed as 5'7", Cervantes 5'3". I just don't know enough about these two to make a pick. I mean, I don't know what type of training Cervantes is getting. I don't know anything about Mandiao. Her only pro fight was a loss to Vanessa Demopoulos via submission, armbar, 4 months back, 5 months back. Yeah, I just don't know enough about either of these two to really feel comfortable making a pick. Which moves us along to Bellator 233, two ladies fights. First up, we have Janae Hollowpoint Harding taking on Amanda the Lady Killer Bell at featherweight. Harding coming in 5-3, Bell coming in 6-6. Harding coming off 2 straight wins. Bell coming off a TKO loss to Arlene Blencoe, preceded by a KO win over Amber Leibrock. Whereas Harding's coming off a unanimous decision win over Marina Machnetkina, and then a TKO due to doctor stoppage over Sinead Kavanagh a year ago already. Wow. Bell's the older fighter, 31 to Harding's 25. Harding is the taller fighter, 5'10 to Bell's 5'8. They both have a 70-inch reach advantage according to Tapology. I liked what I saw from Harding in her last 2 fights. She is showing a very well-rounded game. Bell is a good example of one-hitter quitter power. You don't see that very often among the ladies. You'll see it a little more often in featherweight, and Bell has legit one-punch knockout power. But honestly, that's just about all she tends to bring to most fights. I'm going with Janae Harding to take this one. A little further up the card, we have another featherweight bout. Leslie the Peacemaker Smith, 11-7-1, taking on Arlene Angerfist Blencoe, 12-7. Both are coming off in on a win streak. Smith has won her last 3 fights. Most recently, her successful debut in Bellator against Sinead Kavanagh via majority decision. Arlene Blencoe is coming off that TKO win over Amanda Bell 3 months ago. Okay, neither of these two ladies are on the right side of their prime. Smith is 37. Blencoe is 36. Smith is the taller fighter, 5'9 to Blencoe's 5'5, so 4-inch height advantage. However, Blencoe has a 1-inch reach advantage, 67 inches to 66 for Smith, according to Tapology. I think we both know what to expect from these two. Smith is a brawler. She is a scrap pack fighter. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, trained with the Diazes. She's going to come forward and she's going to throw sloppy. But she has a chin on her. Angerfist, I feel, is the more polished fighter. And she's experienced enough that she should not have... she shouldn't get fazed by the brawling of Smith. Blencoe's a bit of a brawler herself, but I would say she's definitely the more refined of the two. And I almost always pick the more refined fighter. So I'm going with Arlene Blencoe to win. Plus, Blencoe is a true featherweight, whereas Smith fought the majority of her career at bantamweight and has even fought as low as flyweight, which just shows how weak, again, the featherweight division really is. Which brings us to Saturday, Road FC 56. There are 2 ladies' fights on this card. First up, at a 139-pound catchweight fight, we have Hyun Park, 0-1, taking on Nayeon Park, who is also 0-1. Nayeon Park, her last fight was like 2-3 years ago at strawweight, so she must have put on some weight since then. I'm not making a pick on this one. I just don't have... It's very hard to know what these two have been up to in their training. And then At strawweight, we have Eunjun Lee, who they're listing as 0-1 as a pro, but I'm pretty sure this is her. She fought. Okay, she is 0-1 as a pro. Taking on Jisoo Park, who is making her pro debut. Uh, Eunjun Lee is notable in that Road FC had an open tryout for the ladies, and Eunjun Lee was one of those selected. Um, as soon as she got the contract with Road FC, she actually quit her full-time job as a banker to enter mixed martial arts full-time. So, not making a pick on either of these fights. I just don't know enough about them. I haven't seen enough of them. So, especially when you're making debut or you've only had one or two fights. And yeah, I'm just going to skip making picks on this. Which brings us to Saturday afternoon in the U.S. UFC Moscow. One ladies fight. Jessica Rose Clark taking on Pannie Kianzad. And these two have fought sometime in the past, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, these two fought at Invicta FC 13 back in 2015. So Jessie Jess coming in 9-5. Kianzad coming in at 11-5. Rose Clark moving back up to bantamweight after a mostly successful stint at flyweight. Both are coming off a loss. Jessica Rose Clark to Jessica I via unanimous decision a year ago, almost a year and a half. Kianzad coming off a loss to Julia Avila about 3.5 months ago. Clark is the older fighter, almost 32, to Kianzad's 27, almost 28. Looks like Kianzad is the taller fighter, 5'7", 254 for Clark. However, Clark has a 1-inch reach advantage, 67 inches to 66. So these two faced each other a while ago. They've each had mixed results since then. Clark has had the more recent success down at flyweight, but she had trouble. Now she's back up to bantamweight. Kianzad tried to went all the way to the finals of the featherweight Ultimate Fighter before losing to Macy Chiasson in the finals. Then she picked up a win outside the UFC over Yuniraz Fiarson, and then came the loss to who was it? Avila. I feel like Clark has come a longer way as a fighter, and her skill improvement has come a long way. She was at Syndicate for a little while. She's gone there now. I'm not sure who she's training with. Kianzad trains out of Denmark, where she lives, originally from Sweden. I'm going with Jessica Rose Clark to win this rematch. I just feel that she's come a lot farther in her career, a lot more skill progression and everything. And I think she'll do all right up at bantamweight. And then finally, on early Sunday morning, U.S. time, Pancrase 310 has an atomweight fight between Sayako Fujita, who is 4-1, taking on the debuting Ye-Rin Hong, who is, as far as I can tell, doesn't even have any amateur fights. So this is basically what you call a gimme fight for Fujita. I mean, they made a deal out of announcing her that she had signed with them. She had fought all of her fights or her 4 previous fights before that in Gratchen. She's on a 4-fight win streak. Hong, don't know anything about her other than she's 16 years old. She's 16 years old. She trains out of, according to Tapology, DK Multi Gym, who doesn't have any fighters listed as pros, just amateur fighters. DK Multi Gym in Uijeongbu, South Korea. Yeah, other than that, all I can say about this is an absolute gimme fight for Fujita, who has mostly been given easy fights, easy winnable fights throughout her career. So, typical WMMA matchmaking there. Obvious pick is Fujita to win. All right, so that is the fights coming up for this weekend. And really, honestly, that's it for this show. It's a short one today. I didn't have a whole lot of time to work on it, unfortunately. We'll try to correct that for next week's show. Till then, let me know what you think about. Let me know your thoughts. Anything, whether it's the results from last week, the news and announcements, the upcoming fights, whatever your thoughts are, let me know about them in the comments down below. Of course, likes are always appreciated. And hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. And hit that bell for notifications. And we'll see you next time.